everybody. Welcome back to Fire Your Empty Now Radio. It is Monday, August the 11th. Mike Phillip filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden once again, as Dr. Glidden is going to school to keep his license current. Now, I can't imagine being a professor in a class and looking down at Dr. Wallach and Dr. Glidden staring back at you. Might be a kind of a, I don't know, like, what are you gonna teach Wallach something? It's kind of how I look at it. Anyways, call in line 844-374-5433. Once again, 844-374-5433. You can contact me and get your questions answered on the show. Go to Mike at teamglidden.ca. Once again, that's Mike at teamglidden.ca. I am very humbled and very proud to be hosting this show for Dr. Glidden. It's a big set of shoes to fill, and I try to represent him as best I can. Now, I am not a naturopath. I am not an MD. I'm not a acupuncturist. I'm a guy who a few years back was looking for a way to get back my health and the health of my wife, mostly for my wife. And you might have heard her on the air with me on Thursday. She's a beautiful little girl, and she is completely pain-free after, about 5 years of debilitating pain. And multiple doctors, rheumatologists, pain specialists, and you know what? We did it because hope springs eternal. And the reason I say that is because I don't believe all the hype around this Ebola propaganda. I really don't. Like, I study different news stories in order to go on this show and have something to talk about. And, I go to different health sections like Fox and CNN and a whole bunch of different places, and I'm seeing just mass hysteria over the Ebola virus. Now, health officials in Liberia are saying that they're facing an Ebola epidemic. Okay, now I want you to do yourself a favor and educate yourself a little bit on Liberia. Okay? Go on YouTube, and there's a channel called Vice Travel, and these guys travel to the worst places in the world, war zones, poverty-infested regions, and they actually took a trip to Liberia. And you can watch that on YouTube. It's called Cannibal Warlords of Liberia. Now, a little bit of history on Liberia. That country was America's foray into African colonialism. All right. Now, the capital city of Liberia is called Monrovia. And this country has been absolutely ravaged by internal struggles and war. And as a result, they're completely corrupt. The police and the military, gangs rule sections of Monrovia. But what you'll notice about this city is that there's running sewage in the streets. There's rampant drug abuse and prostitution. The only thing you can really do if you're a boy or girl in Liberia, in the capital city, is join a gang or become a prostitute. Okay, they were showing pictures of the beach where the people go, and there isn't maybe a half a foot square that does not have a turd from humans crapping on the beach. Now, I don't like to be gross, but this is a public sanitation nightmare. And now, all of a sudden, Liberia's got a health crisis. Just now. We're just hearing this. Well, I'll tell you what, they've been having a health crisis this whole time. And when you've got bad sanitary conditions, such as I just described, and poverty and starvation, people are malnourished, any disease is going to come along and wipe them out. Okay? Now, looking into this further, I went over to Robert Scott Bell's website, and he posted an article by John Rappaport. If you're not familiar with John Rappaport, he's an investigative journalist. And he has been on the Alex Jones show multiple times. He even hosted it. once or twice, I remember. But I got to bring this article to your attention because I think it really hits the nail on the head. If you want to read it, you can go to John's website. That's nomorefakenews.com. And he's actually done a lot of work exposing problems in the medical system. Now, check this out. When you have useless and false diagnostic tests, people with Ebola symptoms who are actually sick for reasons that have nothing to do with a virus, and a global PR machine that launches more lies per hour than a two-bit hustler at the racetrack, you can rev up a global epidemic purely on the basis of invented storyline and image. This article is about the Ebola psyop, the imagery, the storyline, selling it. Premise 1, the virus comes from Africa. Oh no, watch out. HIV came from Africa. Uh-oh, watch out. The unproven origin myth, HIV equals green monkeys, Ebola equals fruit bats, Africans eating bats and monkeys, and mating with HIV green monkeys. Storyline, imagery. A frightening virus is supposed to come from a far-off, strange place where primitive things happen. West Nile, Uganda, SARS, China, bird flu, somewhere in Asia, HIV, Africa, swine flu, Mexico. Why do they not ever say a pandemic virus came from Brooklyn or Tulsa or the Grand Canyon? There's ample opportunity to satisfy the animals gave it to humans storyline in the Grand Canyon or in an alleyway in Brooklyn. A coyote bit the leg of a picture-taking tourist in the canyon. Therefore, all of Japan is on lockdown. Grand Canyon plague, we'll call it. A rat bit a young hood while he was combing his hair to look like John Travolta in an alley in Brooklyn. But no, for Westerners, it has to be Africa. Cincinnati hemorrhagic fever doesn't have the same ring. True, in America we have Lyme disease, but the cause is purported to be several bacteria carried by ticks. A virus like Ebola carries more propaganda fear. Yeah, you got to think about that. Why weren't they broadcasting 24/7 stories about Lyme disease when that's actually spreading in Western Canada and the United States as well? Bacteria, virus. A virus is much smaller. A virus is diabolical. Imagery. The myth is bacteria can be treated. A virus could destroy the world. If pharmaceutical companies are going to sell you billions of dollars of drugs and vaccines to treat an epidemic, their number one target market will be North America. Therefore, North Americans have to be terrorized. Well, what's the best way to do that? The virus came from a far-off, strange land. Ebola has the added image of a patient suddenly spewing blood all over the place. This is crucial. And then the slightest infection with the Ebola virus, and you'll probably die. Absolutely false, but who cares? More mythical storyline. You're sitting in an airport terminal. You open your mouth to yawn, and the person next to you vomits blood. A molecule bounces off your wristwatch, and bingo, lands on your tongue. You're a goner. 6 weeks later, closed casket or cremation by trained professionals wearing hazmat suits. With Brooklyn fever, most of Manhattan would simply refuse to get sick to show they're better than Brooklynites. I could very easily cook up an American epidemic, drop of a hat. Give me a dozen doctors from the CDC Epidemic Intelligence Unit and a whip, and I'm good to go. I'll make those doctors journey to the western U.S. and find a flu virus in a cow on a ranch in Wyoming. Side note from me here, they already did that. Remember mad cow disease? Dr. Wallach proved that was a copper deficiency because they did not have elastin in their brains, which the copper would have produced. But no, we had to shut down the beef industry here in Alberta where I live because of a false epidemic. And you got to take your shoes off getting on the plane. Bogus. We go on. Cows, like humans, probably have a few flu viruses at all times in their bodies, doing absolutely nothing except lying around watching CSI reruns. When those doctors find in a cow a flu virus they've never seen before or pretend they found one, we'll give it a name. The Laramie flu. How's that? Then the doctors will find or pretend to find the same virus in a few people. will report back to the CDC, and the PR engine will start to turn over. Big promotion, Laramie flu, watch out. Soon every patient walking into a doctor's office or clinic or hospital in the U.S. who has a cough or a fever or an ache will automatically be slapped with the label Laramie flu. The CDC will declare a public health emergency, egregiously invent the number of cases, and we are off and running. Some jerkwater drug company started in San Diego will win a grant from the Department of Defense to work on a vaccine and a drug. Heroic researchers are rushing to complete studies on a Laramie vaccine while the public is anxiously waiting for help. Meanwhile, the CDC is cautiously recommending treatment with Ublidx-2, a potent and somewhat risky antiviral medicine. Side effects: severe lung infection, flu, pneumonia, which in some cases is fatal. You get it? The drug causes the symptoms. People who die after treatment with Ublidx, that's fictional, are merely designated as victims of the Laramie flu. The drug is off the hook. Nice and neat. Images for the Laramie flu? We need them to, how about people spewing up mucus, violent cough, sometimes causing capillaries in the brain to rupture. It seems a truck driver in Texas ate a cheeseburger in a diner and contracted Laramie flu. Fear spreads like wildfire. Storyline and image are the essentials. Science? When it's crooked, cooked up, and unreliable, you're all set. Mike Phillips filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden, not buying this Ebola garbage. Not at all. Not worried about it. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. We're live. Mike Phillips filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden. Now, before the break, I was talking about John Rappaport's take on this whole Ebola thing. And you know what? I happen to agree. A lot of these times where these diseases are originating, they have poor health conditions in the beginning. Malnutrition, bad sanitation. All of these things are going to contribute to disease, and they can slap that on anything that they want. But the good news is, if you have a nutrified body, you can stand up to just about anything, but they've got to ramp up the fear. I mean, you know, just on Fox Health right now, I'm going to read you 4 headlines. What's scary about Ebola? Reasons not to fear it. 1, 25 years ago, a different Ebola outbreak in the U.S. 2, didn't wipe us out. GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, Ebola vaccine to start clinical trials soon. West African churches filled as the residents pray for deliverance from devil Ebola, and it goes on and on. And I remember when it was swine flu. I remember when it was bird flu. You know what? And as far as I'm concerned, it has nothing to do with the show. It's my opinion. I think that the whole human-caused global warming thing is a steaming pile of crap to get you to hate yourself and your fellow man because polar bears can't swim. We're going to go to a question that I got from Will Ken in an email, and you can contact me, Mike at teamglidden.ca. Will Ken writes, heard Dr. Glidden on the Alex Jones show recently. Really great interview. Now I listen to the Fire Your MD Now podcast. I have a question about brain tumors. Is there any remedy other than or in addition to the chemo? I have a friend, aged 27, young dude, but now diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor and goes through some sort of radiation to try and shrink it. Is there anything else his family should be looking into that I can share with them? I follow a lot of alternative health news, but I think they have no knowledge in alternative medicine or any other options that they are aware of. He now has an estimated lifespan of 3 to 5 years from now. He and I are the same age, and now I'm thinking this could easily happen to any one of us. Any insight is appreciated. Thank you. Well, Ken, thanks for the email. And there's actually really good news on this front. Dr. Wallach proved a long time ago that if a person can get a high ORAC value into their body, that your body will fight off cancer. We don't offer treatments or cures because it is illegal under the FDA in the United States and Health Canada, here where I'm at, to say that anything cures or treats anything unless it's a drug, or unless you're saying something stupid like hope is the cure or awareness is the cure. They love that, don't they? Awareness. Awareness is the cure. Anyhow, so what we would do for a brain tumor or cancer is we would get that person on 90 essential vitamins, minerals, and amino and fatty acids, and you can get access to that through Longevity Now. The ORAC value. ORAC is an acronym that stands for Oxygen Radical Absorption Capacity. So if you want to help your friend, there's a few different ways we can go about this. There's a sea vegetable called fucoidan that is present in a product called Z-Radical. All right, and this has been shown to have a devastating effect on cancer in the body. Second, the mineral selenium. Selenium is very special, and what it does is it actually recycles a biochemical in your body called glutathione. Now, what glutathione does is it attacks free radicals in the body that are causing this damage and the tumors, damage to the cells. All right, so you get your glutathione working properly, because what happens is whenever it attacks a free radical, it's kind of like a bumblebee. It stings and dies. If you are supplementing with the proper amount of selenium, that glutathione will keep recycling in your body and fighting those free radicals. The body is an amazing thing. Okay, we have systems to deal with this stuff, and it actually, your body does all the time. You just are unaware of it until you happen to be sitting in a doctor's office and they find it, or in the case of your friend, he was getting headaches or whatever the case might be. Well, you know what? You don't have to worry, because there's no reason, Wilken, that you should ever get a brain tumor, and I'm going to send you an email after the show, and if you're interested, I'll get personally involved with this. Mike Phillip, filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Fire Your MD Now Radio. Mike Phillip, filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden. We've got Susan in Minneapolis. Stay on the line. Susan, I've got something else I need to get to first, but I will talk to you. Just wait right there. Now, I have a new friend, Allison in South Korea, and this woman is amazing. She has taken Dr. Wallach's research and really doubled down on it, and she has had some amazing health results, and you can follow her progress on her blog, and you can get to that by typing in butimhuman.typepad.com. Excuse me. Once again, that's butimhuman.typepad.com. And the But I'm Human part comes from the headline on her blog. It says, there's plenty of mobility nutrition for dogs, but I'm human. Now, Allison has recovered from some really heavy-duty things and a whole life of sickness and pain, and I want you to hear her tell her story, and this will just take a few minutes. Listen to what happened with Allison. Let's roll that clip.
Hello, this is Allison. Today I'm going to tell you my health story. I'm 55 years old, and I've been in ill health my entire life, even from when I was a small child. I spent my early life going in and out of doctors' offices and having tests and being sent to specialists, but nobody could ever tell me why. I was exhausted all the time, and I could never do what other people could do. By the time I got to 2010, that's now 4 years ago, I was starting to reconcile myself to the fact that my health was going downhill and there was nothing I could do about it, and I just had to hang on as long as I could, and I would not expect to make it to 60 years old. In 2010, my whole body stiffened up. I had no idea what was going on, but I lost the ability to run. By 2011, I was limping. And by 2012, I was permanently bent over to the left. My left leg was shorter than my right. I had serious problems with the hip, my left hip. My left knee was bent in. The whole of my left leg didn't feel like a leg at all. It just felt like a painful stick that was attached to my body but didn't belong to it. And I was in serious trouble. I was in pain 24/7. Whatever I did, I was in pain. I also had, at night, I had ringing in the ears really loudly. I thought it was a noise coming from outside at first. I had the urgent need to go to the bathroom. I had creepy crawlies and restless leg syndrome, and my heart rate would increase when I got into bed. So there was no relief, is what I'm saying. Whatever I did, I sat down, I walked, I stood, I laid down in bed. There was no relief, and I was in desperate trouble. And I'm a Christian, so I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that I would find some help. I was already taking a lot of nutritional supplements. I had cupboards full of the stuff. And they seemed to help me in some areas, but nothing helped with the bone and joints. Eventually, I started listening to a doctor called Dr. Joel Wallach. And for the first time in my life, I heard a doctor who could make sense of my life. I'm sorry. He could explain to me why I had severe asthma as a child, and why that led to other diseases, why I've been constipated my entire life, and why I'd eventually started having all these mobility and bone and joint issues. So I followed his advice. I started taking longevity products, and I started following his dietary advice. I had immediate results. Within 4 days, I knew that I was on the right path, because within 4 days, there was one particular pain that I had just above my left knee. That pain went in 4 days. There was a significant reduction in the restless legs at night, and I was actually walking slightly better. And at first I thought, wow, miracle cure, give me a few weeks, I'm going to be fine. Of course, it didn't work out like that. I had to be much more patient than that, especially after 2 months on the products. I started having severe back problems. I hurt my back somehow. And I actually seemed to be in worse pain than I was before, and my mobility got even worse. And I had to kind of ride out a few terrible weeks. But eventually the progress started again. And by the time I'd been on the products and the diet for 6 months, I was standing straight. I was no longer bent over to the left. I was functioning much better. I was walking much better. I was able to move much better. And I was pain-free most of the time. That 6-month mark is now a year ago. And in the last year, I've continued on the program, and I have continued to improve slowly but steadily. Every few weeks, I get a new skill back, or something happens that is an improvement on where I was before. The situation now is I'm walking 90% better. I'm still limping. I'm still using a walking stick. But I am able to go where I want and do what I want. For a long time, I was kind of trapped in my house. I was just too scared to go out the front door because I didn't know if I could get myself back again. I'm way past that now. I can get on buses. I can get on trains. I can go where I want, do what I want. And I feel good. Now, if you knew me for 55 years, you know it was amazing that I can actually sit here and say, I feel good. I can get home from work and I feel good. I feel like I can do something in the evening rather than just crash and be thankful that I don't have to go out again, right? I'm almost pain-free. 99% of the time I'm pain-free. And even when I do have a bit of pain, it's nothing to what it was. What can I say? I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful to God. I'm so thankful to Dr. Wallach. Oh, shut up, Alison. And I'm so thankful to longevity. So if you have the same problems as me, I really pray and hope that you will get on board with the same program and that you will find the same relief. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Isn't that beautiful? I mean, this lady is so nice, and I've been corresponding with her for the last few days, and I really appreciate my new longevity friends. And with that, I would also like to give a shout-out to Dave and Danette in Edmonton. They just recently contacted me. They're going to get on board. I'm going to phone them up right after this show and help them tailor a health program for themselves. Also, I would like to say hello to Anita Wasserman, and I'm going to get to an email from her in a little bit here. But first of all, we're going to go and talk to Suzanne in Minneapolis. Suzanne, are you there?
Yeah.
How you doing, Suzanne?
Well, I'm doing good.
Okay, so what's on your mind today?
Well, I just have a couple questions. I was to a meeting here Friday evening, but before that, I had last week I had started the 90 for Life, the tangy tangerine and the calcium and the essential fatty acids. And then I got the Sweet Ease because I was falling asleep a lot. Like after I would eat lunch, like say if I would have one day I had French fries and a Frosty, and I couldn't keep my eyes open for the life of me. I mean, I had to stand to do my job because I would just fall asleep. So I just assumed, I guess I'm assuming that I have an issue with blood sugar. But I don't know for sure because after about 3 days of taking the calcium, and the vitamins, minerals, and all that, along with the Sweeties, I would take about one a day. On about the third day, I became very dizzy as I was brushing my teeth. And then I just felt so funny. I would kind of walk, and I'd feel like I would step off to the side, like I didn't have control of my balance. And so I just thought, dear, what is going on? What's happening? So I decided to stop everything. I stopped the 90 for Life, the vitamins, the Sweeties, and I just stopped everything. And then I stopped being dizzy and feeling off kilter and what have you. But I'm still get sleepy after lunch and so on and so forth. So the fellow who I talked to Friday night, he said, "We'll give you a call and talk to you about it and see what you might recommend."
Well, I'm really glad you called, Suzanne. That, if somebody called me with a similar, with what you had been telling me that wasn't using longevity, I would immediately go to a blood sugar for vertigo issues. Now, the only way I've seen this not work is if somebody is not following the 10 bad food list. Number one, okay, gluten will definitely impair your ability to absorb these vitamins. Number two is not enough. And if you were only taking one Sweeties a day, if it were me, like I do about 6 a day, and I don't not always, but if I start feeling anxiety and whatnot, I'll start popping them and it goes away. But here's the deal. You're going to need more than that. And what I would strongly recommend here, okay, is that you take a little bit of a process of elimination approach to this, okay? And I would like you to just try taking 3 Sweeties a day for a few days and see how you feel, because if you're not taking enough and things start changing, but it doesn't have the punch behind it because there isn't enough there, then that could be part of the problem, because things are starting to change and you're feeling it, but maybe you just need to get over the hump. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, so, one Sweeties a day isn't going to do it for a pre-existing blood sugar issue, right? So you need that chromium and vanadium. So what I would like you to do is a little bit of process of elimination. Try just taking the Sweeties for about 3 days and see if that works. We're going to let you go, and we're going to go over to John T. in Clearwater, Florida. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for the call. Now Radio, Mike Phillip filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden here on the Genesis Communication Network, and I got to tell you, I love GCN. I've been an Alex Jones listener for a lot of years, and then I just started listening to other shows. And as a result of that, I've had a lot of really good things happen in my life. It all comes down to taking in the right information and acting on it. And with that, we got Johnny T. in Clearwater, Florida calling. How you doing, John?
Doing well, thank you.
Good to hear. What's on your mind today, my friend?
Well, I don't know how much you want to discuss this on air with people, but it has to do with parasites in human beings.
Yep.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine. Absolutely.
Okay. I know that I have flies living in my body.
Okay.
Okay, and I know this because I've spit them out. I spit them out into test tubes. I spit them out into clear bottles, all with alcohol in them.
Yep.
And this has been going on a long, long time, and I'm trying to find a naturopathic doctor here in this area of Clearwater, Florida, that I can go to and talk to about this and perhaps take these specimens to, because they're like long, stringy globs, giant globs, like the size of a golf ball almost. And within that are the flies and the fly larvae. There's little worms. And I'm told that if I go to a medical doctor, and I was told this by a very accomplished medical doctor, that if you go into an MD and say to them that you believe you have parasites, and my friend the doctor told me this verbatim, he said, if you tell them that, they're going to require you to go see a psychiatrist. Now,
yeah, I've heard of that before, John.
Okay, well, trust me, if you knew how many days, months I have dedicated to studying this and observing these things, I just need a place to go to get these things tested, because this is just absolutely ruining my life. And one other question that I would have is it possible that a botfly could be using candida in the body as its growth medium?
Well, they're living on something, right? And they're definitely there, and you know this to be a fact. And I got to say, John, that sounds just awful. I feel for you, man. But, okay, you wanted to know a place that you can go to and a test. I've got it for you right here. And this is actually recommended by Dr. Glidden. It's the only lab in the country that Dr. Glidden recommends for parasite testing. And you can go to directlabs.com. That's directlabs.com, okay? Uh-huh. And you want the doctor's data parasitology ×3 test, okay?
Can you say that last one again, doctor's?
Data parasitology ×3 test, okay? And what you do is you order up a little kit, and they will send it to you, and you provide a sample and send it back to them. And what they do is they go through it, identify the parasite, and identify what will specifically kill that parasite, okay? Now, that's a route you can go. And if you want more information on that, Dr. Glidden, if you go to his website, fireyourmdnow.com, you can become an insider. It's about $20 a month, and what that gives you is access to countless hours of webinars with Dr. Glidden teaching on these different things. Now, he has an entire webinar on there on parasites, okay, and that's where I actually got the information for this test, and it's the only one that he recommends. Now, once again, that's directlabs.com, Doctor's Parasitology. John, I hear the music. Do you want to just go on hold during this hard break, and I'll talk to you on the other side?
Sure.
Great. You hang on there, John, and we'll come back to you. This is Mike Phillip filling in for Dr. Peter Glidden, coming to the end of this first hour. We'll be back after this network break.